If you want to participate, contact me at ordinarywomenpodcast@gmail.com. I'm sure you have great projects to brag about. You can also follow me and message me on Instagram at ordinarywomenpodcast, on Twitter at ordinarywomenpc, or on Facebook on the page Ordinary Women. Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Ordinary Women. I'm with Gitanjali today. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Lucy. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining. Super excited to have you here today. Can you start by giving us a quick introduction of yourself, please?
Of course. So, my name is Gitanjali, as you mentioned. I am an Indian mother and I live in Germany, in Berlin. And I've been in Germany since 2014. And when I moved to Berlin in 2017, I met my husband here, and I've kind of set up my life here now. In India, I was working for a number of different NGOs. I've studied communications in India, and it was a big part of my life, moving around all over the country, meeting different people, doing a lot of very interesting projects on topics like democracy, dialogue, human rights, feminism, and so on. And then I decided to do a second master's degree. So I came to Germany to study international politics. And I've been doing that for quite a few years. But recently I have become self-employed. I started my own little business called The Confused Mother. And I'm happy to tell you more about it as well.
Yeah, everything is so interesting. And is there anything unusual about yourself?
Unusual. I think a lot of things. I think that people find me unusual in a lot of ways. I'm not really sure if there's any one thing that's unusual about me, to be honest. But I think one of the things that I was thinking about this morning was the topic of courage. And, I get told by a lot of people that I'm very courageous, but it's very important to also know for everyone out there is that I'm also constantly scared. And it takes me a lot of energy to be courageous, but I still try my best.
Oh, I love that. That's so nice. Yeah. It's cool that despite being scared, you still go for it. That's super
Yes.
cool. Obviously, on this podcast, we talk a lot about what it's like to be a woman. So I'd like to start by asking, was there a moment or an event in your life when you realized that you are a woman?
Not really. It took a long time for me to even start thinking about all of these topics because, of course, as an Indian woman in India, it's something that you kind of, I went through it in a very numb manner. Like I just lived my life and I never really questioned what it is being a woman and being a girl growing up in India. My mother had to listen to a lot of times people respond to her with a lot of pity. They'll be like, "Oh, you don't have a son," because I have a sister, so we are two girls. And so initially, I think it was also difficult for her to accept that she doesn't have a boy, she doesn't have a son, and that she has two girls. And it was something that really bothered me, and I spent a lot of time as a child, as a young woman, wishing that I were a man because I always felt that men and boys have it easier, they are more respected, and so on. But I never really thought about or never really owned my femininity and my womanhood for a very long time. And then at some point, I realized that this is actually a strength. I should not try to be a man. I should just accept and own my womanhood. And I think that kind of was a game changer in my life because then I realized that the way I live my life is very different from the way a lot of other women live their lives. And I found that empowering women to use their voices was something that was really important to me. And it kind of became a mission. And that's, defined my career, defined my private life. And so it's been an ongoing process. I can say that, discovering, because women, we go through so many different phases in our life, and I think everyone goes through phases in their lives where we keep changing, we grow, we learn, we get exposed to different things. And I think that's why I say that it's an ongoing journey, because I keep discovering new things about myself and about women and the world.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that now, yeah, you see them like you don't want to be a man just because of the privileges anymore.
Exactly.
And that, yeah, you see that. That's really cool. But yeah, I'm always so surprised about how it's still such a big thing. I mean, I don't know like about everywhere, but yeah, even like people who are I've seen recently, I don't know why they come up on my Instagram page, but like videos of like men being super disappointed of having a girl at like a gender reveal party, or on the contrary, being like
Yeah.
excessively happy of having a boy. And it's like, wow, if the gender of your child, which also at this point realistically is just the sex of the person of the baby, of a fetus, if that matters that much to you, I don't know, it's just like really scary and says a lot about their vision of the world as
It
well.
really is. I also have seen a video like this where the father got excessively excited and almost aggressively happy about the fact that he was going to have a boy, and it really scared me, because what kind of message is it putting out there for people?
Completely.
And I shudder to think that if they have another child and it ends up being a girl, how he's going to treat her. And I think that this is something I really think a lot about, because I have a daughter and I want her to have positive role models. And if my partner had reacted like that, I would really be afraid for myself and for her.
Yeah, completely. It's really, yeah, really scary. But I'm glad if your partner is a decent human being and didn't
Very
react like
much
that.
so. Very much so he is.
That's good to know. And speaking of role model, did you grow up with any women role model?
So this is a very difficult question, because no, I didn't. I was at an event last week where during a panel discussion, the one of the panelists was asked the same question, and she also said that she didn't have a role model growing up, and she felt a little ashamed about it. But to be honest, when I heard that, I felt so relieved. I said, "Oh my God, I'm not the only one who didn't have just one role model." Now, it's a very similar concept, I think, in my mind, but about religion. I grew up in a society, or in a community in which we were a lot of friends of different religions, different parts of the country, all living together. And it was such a nice situation, because we could celebrate all the festivals. We grew up with a lot of different languages, a lot of different ways of living, and we took the best of all of it. And I think that that is the same concept that applies even for role models, is that I drew inspiration from a lot of different people around me, from my sister, from my friends who did a lot of things. My friends are all doing such amazing things all around the world today, and I'm constantly amazed and inspired by all of them. It's really, I think that's the beauty of not having just one role model, is that you can get so much if you just open and, like, observe the people around you and let them inspire you. So that's kind of what I've been doing, is that I said I don't need just one role model, and I don't want to be like just one person. I want to, yeah, get the best of everyone.
I love that. Yeah, that's really cool. Like kind of like, yeah, get inspired by all these great people. That's super cool. So would you say that's still the case today then?
Very much so, very much
Yeah.
so. I mean, there are like, and also, as I mentioned earlier, the phases of life that we go through. Like, I have been working in a job at an organization or a company for a very long time, and this is the first time that I've started my own business. I'm self-employed, and so I have a whole new set of challenges, a whole new set of things that I have to learn and I want to learn. And I think this changes the people that I'm looking at and the people that I'm observing and trying to learn from, because there are so many different successful entrepreneurs, and watching their journeys from the first days probably with a lot of failure, a lot of trial and error, and finally reaching the stage where they are successful. So, I keep looking at how different people do different things, and I think that that is going to keep happening throughout my life.
Nice. I love this. And do you think that the lack of representation of women in society had an impact on you?
It really depends on how you look at it, because lack of representation of women in what sense? Because growing up, I saw a lot of mothers and women working. I saw a lot of they had jobs, they had careers. And I saw a lot of women who were homemakers, and that is also a representation in society. And then you kind of think about what kind of role you want to play in that society, right? And then you kind of spend time thinking about and observing what different women are doing. So I don't think that women are underrepresented in society. I think that there is a lack of equal representation of women in certain areas. So when you're looking at role models in the space of career and entrepreneurship, definitely women are not as visible there yet. But I see, like living in Germany, I see that there are so many amazing supportive networks of women entrepreneurs, of women leaders, and I'm also a mentor in two different networks. So I work with women who are looking to grow and have someone with whom they can discuss their dreams and goals and vision and problems with. And I myself am a mentee as well. So I have a mentor with whom I also talk to regularly. And I think that this is kind of changing. And I noticed that this is also happening in India. A lot of women work in India. It's, they have good office jobs. You have a lot of women running banks, running big companies, and you have a lot of really positive role models that are visible. And I think that that's great, because the society, you can see, is slowly changing and making it possible for us to do things like that.
Yeah, definitely. That's very true. I love that. And I love that this mentorship program sounds so amazing to have, more like tips and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you have a lot of these, like, online networking events, or even, in-person events. And when you go to these kinds of get-togethers, it is just amazing the energy that you have there. There's so many women, everyone is open, everyone is supportive of each other, everyone is celebrating each other's wins and successes, and is there even if you don't succeed, to help you with input on how you can turn things around and make it happen for yourself. And it's just being there is really inspiring. It's really a great space to be a part of.
I love that. Yeah, these types of like energy between people is always the best and so supportive. That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that a very important message is also that if you want, as a mother or as a woman, if you want to be a stay-at-home wife or mother, that should be your choice. You should not be forced into that situation. So, regardless of what you decide to do with your life, it should be your choice and not a force. That your circumstances are so miserable that you are forced into whatever decision. And I think that that's happening quite a lot. On the one hand, women want to work and women want to build successful careers. But there's also now a stigma to women who say, no, I want to be a stay at home mom and I want to spend all of my time with my child. And I don't think that this stigma should exist. And, um, you know, if you want to work, then you should be able to work outside the home, I mean. And unfortunately, currently the economy is such that women also have to work, because you can almost, in the fewest of circumstances, actually run a household on just a single income these days. It is important that both partners work. So, I mean, unless, one partner is earning so much money that you can afford to have one person stay at home. But nowadays, our economy is such, there's so much insecurity, and everything has become so expensive. So you have to work. You have to work. And we need to create a system and a society that enables all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I was reading not so long ago, and I really want to like read more about that, but how the like all the shifts that happened when women entered the workforce, but at the same
Mhm.
time, all the shifts did not happen. Like for instance, yeah, all the unpaid work that mothers or like stay-at-home moms would do in the house, in the household, like cook, like it's a full-time cooker, cleaner,
Yes.
doing like the taxi for your children, like raising children, just that
Yeah.
is like, yeah, all of this. And as you just said, like now you need two salaries almost, especially if you have children. And at the same time, you also have to do all these like food didn't start magically appear.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we still work at the same time. It's really, really interesting.
Mhm.
And also very annoying on a lot of sides. But yeah, definitely, I really agree with that. Like, yeah, also because it makes so much sense. Like, my cousin had a baby not so long ago.
Mhm.
And when I saw her at Christmas, so the baby was 2 months old, I think.
Okay.
And she mentioned that, so like in France, I think you have like, I don't remember, but she had to go back to work like really, really soon after. And she was like, I don't want to. Like,
Mhm.
it's so small. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to like leave it to someone else, which is also very fair. Like, yeah, there's so much. And so, yeah, completely. Like, women who want to stay at home and raise their children, it makes so much sense. Like, you
Yeah.
had a child, it's like, yeah.
And I think this is something I think a lot about the fact that we live in Germany and we had the privilege of having parental leave and parental benefits and to be able to take paid time off to raise your child that is worth so much. And I would have hated to leave my little baby and go back to work because I had to. And when it came time to discuss between my husband and me who is going to take parental leave and for how long and so on, we both said we have to make the most of this situation where we have the privilege of being off of work. And so I took 1 full year of parental leave, and my husband also took, I think, 8 or 9 months. And his employer did not say a word. They just like sent him the contract, changed all the documents and everything, and it was just fine. Everything was normal. He did not have to fear that his job was at stake or that he would have to suffer, and I also did not have that fear, which was such a relief because then you can just concentrate on what is important. And another thing that I also think about when I see there are countries where parents don't have enough parental leave and paid parental leave is postpartum recovery, because I've seen so many women struggle so badly with their physical and mental recovery after childbirth. I mean, it's not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, it really takes ages for your body to recover from childbirth. I know that there are some women who are up and moving and working and exercising after just 3 or 4 weeks, but I wasn't that way. It took me ages. It took me like 3 or 4 months to be able to walk properly, to go for long walks with my daughter, to be able to carry her for long stretches of time and so on, because my body was just so weakened through childbirth. And I absolutely hated it. But I was so grateful that I had that parental leave to actually take the time and say, okay, I'm not going to do anything. We're going to stay home and just relax today and not do anything because I am exhausted or I am in pain. And not everyone has that. And as an international parent, like I'm Indian and my parents live in India. My husband is German, but his parents don't live here. So you don't really have much of a support system. I have some really great friends who help out. Once in a while, they will take care of our daughter, or they will bring us some food, or they help out in some ways whenever possible and however possible. But they also have their own lives. And I can't just be like, oh yeah, we're struggling, so please come and help. But yeah, I think that international parents living in different countries, it really is something that we struggle with, is building a support system. And especially when you have a child, it becomes all the more important.
Yeah, I remember seeing that about I can't remember which celebrity who had a flat stomach back only a few weeks after like after giving birth or something like that, and like someone mentioning how yeah, when you're rich and you have people taking care of your baby all day long and you
Yeah.
can have time to recover and you don't have like all of this like sure also you just had a baby, why do you care about having a flat stomach? But like the press, whatever. But yeah, like for most like normal people, just like your whole life is changing and just like you grew a human being
Yeah.
that's like obviously is gonna have an impact on your body.
Going to take ages to recover. I mean, I couldn't even start thinking about exercising until I think 7 or 8 months after my
Mm.
daughter was born. And I'm glad that you brought this up because it's something that, I hear a lot from mothers is that social media puts us under so much pressure because of perfect homes, perfect bodies, and things like that. And like it's just a recommendation, it's just a suggestion, it's how they are doing it. But I always say every body is different, every mother is different, every pregnancy is different, every child is different, and the challenges that you face, they are yours alone. You have your specific set of circumstances under which you have to make things work. And definitely, if you have a support system, if you have people in place who can take care of your child while you go for a swim or a walk or to the gym or whatever, then of course you're going to be able to find more time to concentrate on yourself and get some rest and go out and have a social life or whatever that brings you joy.
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. And I'd like to jump on kind of the second part of this project where I think, of this podcast, sorry, where I think we're gonna keep talking about motherhood, if I
Yes.
remember correctly. Great. Can you explain what you want to talk about, tell us what it is?
Yeah, so as you can probably tell, I'm very, very passionate about working with women and working with mothers now as well. And that's what I mentioned at the beginning of the episode is what I'm doing right now is it's called The Confused Mother. And that's essentially who I am. And everyone who hears the name is like, oh my God, that's amazing. Aren't we all confused? And it's very important to mention that the name has to be taken with a pinch of irony. Like it's not, I don't want to give the message out there that all women and all mothers are confused and overwhelmed and whatever. But yes, it is a completely new thing that we are going through, and we all face confusion. Am I doing this right? What am I doing? What should I be doing? How should I be doing it? And so on. So all of these questions keep coming up. So what happened? I think the first moment when it came into my mind was during my pregnancy, and that I had a lot of rib pain. And I didn't know why that was happening. So I looked it up, and no website mentions rib pain as a common symptom of pregnancy. And I realized that it's because my daughter's legs were in there and she kept like kicking me. She kept kicking me.
Oh.
And so there were times when I had to, I would like nudge her away from there with my hand, but it didn't always work. And sometimes I would just stand up and do a little dance to like shake her out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, I can laugh about it now, and I used to laugh about it then, but it was really painful.
Yeah, I can
Um,
imagine. Oh.
and then I said to my husband, I'm like, why is nobody talking about this? Finally, I said, okay, this somebody needs to create some more dialogue about it, and it's just not very visible. And another example is that when I was pregnant, a lot of people, how they usually say, "Oh, you're glowing, you look so beautiful, and you're glowing." And whenever people said you're glowing, I always said to them, "I think it's just the water retention that's making my skin glow." And, it's not like, oh, I'm pregnant and I've finally fulfilled my role as a woman. It's nothing like that because I found that to be crap. But yeah. And I think that, like, for me, that was very important to talk very realistically, very open and honestly about my experience. And I have to admit, I hated being pregnant. It was painful, it was uncomfortable, it was so annoying because I'm usually a very active person. I love going out, I love riding my bike, I love going for walks and swimming and so on. And I couldn't do most of those things because I felt like a whale moving so slowly. Anyway, so that was kind of the trigger. And then once I my daughter was, I think, around 9 or 10 months old, I started an Instagram channel called The Confused Mother. And I started writing about my experience with pregnancy, with childbirth, and started sharing my very realistic, very honest tips on things that I tried and that worked. And after a while, I felt like I need to do something more. I would like to do even more and create even more space for women to share their stories and share their experiences with motherhood, and also to give them to reassure them that they are not alone in their experience. And that's how I started my podcast. So I also run the Confused Mother podcast, and I bring out a new episode every 2 weeks. I talk to mothers and experts about everything related to motherhood. So there's been episodes on things like postpartum depression. I did an episode on autism, on breastfeeding problems, on positive birthing. Then the latest one was also a very interesting episode, which I did, was on the guilt that you face about being a mother, and also, not being able to grieve what you have lost of yourself, because when you have a child, you cannot continue living your life the way you used to. Some things obviously will get left behind, and a lot of mothers don't have the opportunity to deal with this loss. And it's a very important process of just accepting this new phase of your life. And so that was the last episode that I did. And then I decided to work on building a few more products to help international parents living here in Germany to deal with parenting, to create this resource of information for everything that they need to know. So on my blog, there are different articles. And now I'm happy to tell you, yesterday, I finally finished my 2 online tutorials. So one has information on everything you need to know when you're having a baby in Berlin. And the second one is about filling out the paperwork. So, when you have to apply for parental leave and parental allowance and for your child benefits and so on. So that is all now in a video tutorial with all the information. It's me speaking into the camera so that people have the feeling that, okay, they're sitting with a friend and just having a conversation, and I'm just telling them whatever I know. And I also talk a lot about self-care, work-life balance, because the idea behind my work, the overarching goal is to give more focus on mothers, bring women back into the focus in this situation. Because once you have a baby, most people, even society is like that, they forget about the mother. The mother gets completely sidelined. And I say, no, mothers are important too. Women are important and they are worthy. And not only in the context of their child, because they say, oh, you have to take care of yourself so that you can take care of your child. Yes, that's true. But you also are a person and you are worthy of being taken care of. So I try to push this message as well. That's my work at the moment.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. It sounds amazing. And I'm sure it's so helpful for moms or pregnant women or women who are thinking about having a child. Especially like the administrative part. Like, I mean, I'm not planning on having a child, so it's not something I think a lot about, but still, like, you're literally the first person I hear mention that. And it's like, obviously, you'll have to do all of this. Like, there will be paperwork.
Yeah.
Why is no one talking about it?
Yeah. I think like another thing is that what I mentioned earlier about having parental leave and having the right to parental leave living in Germany, there is so much support offered to parents. And I just want international parents to be aware of these offers so that they can make use of them. And it is all connected in my mind. What I mentioned about having a support system, and if you don't have like friends and parents and siblings around you to help raise your child, then you have a lot of other support that this German state offers you. And if you use that, it can definitely be a big help. And I think that is kind of the underlying message behind why I have created these tutorials also, so that they don't lose out on everything that is available to them.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's super cool. And how did you do all of this? So you mentioned that you started with an Instagram account. How did you do?
So I had the idea to make the tutorials, and I didn't want it to be just like me recording some slides and things like that. As I mentioned, I wanted to give people the feeling that, okay, they're sitting with a friend who's talking to them and giving them all the information she has. So for me, it was important to speak into the camera and record the tutorials that way. So yeah, that's what I did. I wrote down scripts. I did a lot of research because obviously, this is important stuff that can kind of make or break the amount of money that people get. So I want it to be factually correct. I want to make sure that people, that there's an amount of trust that people can place in me, that they feel, okay, the information that Gitanjali gives is good and reliable and I can trust her. So obviously I did a lot of research and I put everything together in a script, and it took me a lot of what I said about courage in the beginning. It took me a lot of time to actually say, I'm going to start recording and I'm going to start speaking into the camera, because that is not easy. It was so difficult. And of course, remembering the scripts and remembering what I have to say, and then not stuttering and not wasting people's time, but just making sure that I'm getting all the information across. It took a long time, and then editing them, finding a platform, putting them online. It's been a long journey, but I've also learned a lot, and I've become a little bit more comfortable speaking into the camera. So that's what I've been doing. And my podcast, I started recording last year, I think in August or September, and I came out with the first episode at the end of November. And ever since then, every 2 weeks, there's a new episode out. So I usually bulk record and bulk edit as much as possible. And it takes a lot of time, as I'm sure you know as well, like editing podcasts. It takes a lot of time, especially when you don't have a team, when you're doing everything yourself. But I'm very passionate about the podcast. I find it a very important platform to tell stories and to share other people's stories. So I think that I do it because of my own personal conviction that it is good work. And I have got good responses. I mean, I get regularly, when I put out an episode, I get messages saying that, oh my God, wow, I feel that, or I feel seen, I feel heard. And that keeps me going.
I love that. Yeah, that must be like the best moments.
Definitely a good feeling, because you do all this work and you put it out there and you hope that it gets heard and seen, and so on.
Yeah.
And so it's great to get this feedback from people saying that, okay, what I'm doing is good and it's important and people appreciate it, and it gives me the drive to keep going.
That's
And you probably
amazing.
feel the same way about your podcast,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely. 100%. Exactly.
Yeah.
And did you face any challenges?
So many. So I think one of the first challenges that comes to my mind is about the speed at which I was going. So initially, I put in a lot of hours. I would work even at night and on weekends sometimes, and so on. And one of the challenges that I faced was that my daughter would bring back different germs. So we would all be ill all the time.
Oh
And
no.
my husband did the maths and he was counting since September. Now this is like 7 months. We have been ill. We have had 9 colds.
Oh,
And
wow.
the second last one that I had, it laid me flat for 2.5 weeks. And it was so miserable. It was just a nightmare. And constantly, my daughter would go to the Kita in 2 days and then her nose is running again. And the thing is, like, you can't work then because you have to take care of a sick child, first of all. Second of all, you yourself are exhausted, ill, and you haven't slept, and then you can't concentrate on your work. I couldn't finish recording my tutorials because I couldn't speak.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like little things like that, they just slowed me down massively, and obviously I have to concentrate on taking care of my health and taking care of my family's health.
Yeah.
That is a big challenge that I faced. Another challenge is that things go differently from the way you anticipate them. Like you get a request, for example, to do something, and you get excited about it, and then for some reason it doesn't work out.
Mm.
And dealing with that disappointment is just it takes a lot. And so there have been times where I'll sit in the evening and I just can't talk because I'm so preoccupied. And I said, no, I just need to deal with the disappointment that this has not worked out. I offered a workshop, an online workshop, and we didn't get enough signups. And so the couple of people that did sign up, we offered them like private sessions, but we said it's just too small a group to do a full workshop, so we won't do it. And these are the kind of hurdles. But I also realized that a challenge is that I'm kind of repositioning myself as this kind of consultant and expert on parenting, work-life balance, and self-care. So until I am seen as such an expert, it's going to take some time. And
Yeah.
yeah, dealing with the disappointment of things not working out the way you think that they're going to work out. And obviously you plan like, oh, I'm going to be super successful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is kind of those are the two challenges that I've faced so far. And I'm sure
Yeah.
there's lots more to come because now I have to actually start selling my tutorials and selling, go out and distribute my flyers and so on. And I'm sure that there's going to be more challenges there as well.
Well, I hope that it goes as smoothly as possible
Yeah.
and that the challenges are not too big.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
I can't say I hope there won't be challenges because realistically there will be.
Oh,
But yeah.
definitely. I think that's part of life, right? Like
Exactly.
you are going to face challenges
Yeah,
and you have to just take the time, deal with it, and then move on. Yeah.
completely.
Mhm.
And was there something that was easier than you thought would be?
I think getting started with the podcast was easier than I
Mhm.
anticipated because I put out a message on a Facebook group asking if people would be interested in speaking to me on the podcast. I got so many messages and so many requests, and everyone is willing to be on the podcast and everyone is willing to share their stories, and I absolutely love that. So that was a lot easier than I had anticipated. And I heard, wherever I read about how to get started with a podcast, everyone said, you know, just do it. It's better done than perfect. So I didn't wait to have like all the knowledge and learn everything and get the best sound and the best soundproofing and so on. I think I just said, okay, I'm going to start because only once I start am I going to learn what happens. And so it's great that people were responding so positively to the podcast, saying that yeah, we want to be on it, because it gave me more practice. So yeah, that is something that has been in that way easy. Another thing was getting started with self-employment. There are a lot of offers in Germany for people who want to be self-employed or want to start a business. So there's a lot of financial help out there. There's a lot of free coaching that you can avail of, and that's something I did as well. I worked with a marketing coach and a finance coach. It wasn't a lot, but I got some basic coaching to kind of define my product, define my service, and just put everything down on paper. And working with a coach, I can recommend it to everyone. It's amazing working with any kind of coach, depending on what you need, because it just offers so much clarity. And you think that, oh yeah, I can do this myself. It's so normal. There's nothing innovative or new about it, but it definitely makes a difference when you can sit in front of someone who asks you the tough questions, someone who helps you organize your thoughts, helps you figure out answers on your own. And I think that is something that was really easy for me I found out. It was just a simple Google search that I did. I said, okay, let me see what is available out there. And then I came across, and then it was a snowball effect. I spoke to one coach, I spoke to another coach. She said, oh, check this out. And I applied for the coaching. It was free of charge. So I applied for the coaching, I got accepted, and I got it. And I said, okay, this is perfect. So that was also quite easy. And I can recommend to anyone who wants to start their own business, living in Germany, living in Berlin, there is a lot of support out there. So yeah, if you have questions, you can reach out to me anytime, and I'm happy to share what I did.
That's so cool. I love that they have all of that in place. That's
Yes.
amazing. And yeah, it's always like so important to have someone being like, okay, like, yes, we're doing that.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
talking about that. It
Yeah.
reminds me of, have you watched Schitt's Creek?
Yes.
It reminds me when David first wants his job and he talks to Patrick, and he leaves him like so many voice messages, and
Yeah.
then the days after, actually Patrick has all the information that he needed, but
Yeah.
David is just like, it might be these or it might be that, blah blah. But yeah, so helpful to have someone being like, hey, this is what I hear you have, and like
Just sort your thoughts out. Exactly.
yeah.
Mhm.
And why are you proud of this?
I think it took a lot to finally take the step uh, towards self-employment. And I have no idea if this is going to work. I have no idea what my life is going to be like in a year or 5 years from now. But as of now, I know that I'm very motivated to continue. And I don't know, I mean, I'm proud of the fact that I took this step because for a long time, I was thinking I would like to start something of my own. And a lot of people around me, my friends, also told me, they said, Gitanjali, you should really think about going into your own, into business with for yourself. And I never had the idea. I never had that one idea that said, was like 100% conviction. And I said, this is what I have to do. And I think that parental leave is actually a great opportunity and a great turning point in a mom's life or in a parent's life to really take this step. Because if you have been working previously, you have now taken a step back from your work and you get to look at things, look at the bigger picture. You reevaluate your choices, you reevaluate your priorities because your priorities are now different. You have a child, you have a completely different life in that sense. So, this is the same thing that happened to me. And then I kind of, got carried away once I told you already how I developed the idea. And then I kind of got carried away and I said, oh my God, this is it. Like, I feel I can't sleep anymore because this idea just won't leave my mind. And I have to make it happen. So I am proud that I took this step. I am proud that it's come this far. And as I said, it's only 4 months. And I hope that this is something that I will do for the rest of my life because I really enjoy it. And I'm proud of the people that I've met. I'm proud of the stories that I've shared. And yeah, proud that I just keep going every day.
That's amazing. And I hope y'all keep going. And I really, really wish you all the success because it's, yeah, amazing and so important.
Thank you. Well, obviously now a big goal is to make money
Yeah,
because
no, for sure. Because you do
um,
have to pay rent.
exactly, like I would really like to make money. Money was not a big priority for me for a very long time. I just thought I want to do good work, and so I had
Mm.
well-paid jobs, but they were not like they were not the world. They were. I would never get rich with those jobs. But I hope that I get rich through this. And obviously, not just rich in experience and so on, but also
Yeah,
with
yeah,
money. Because
yeah.
I live a very simple life. We have very like simple day-to-day lives and no fancy hobbies and stuff except for traveling. We love traveling as a family.
Mm.
It's something that we absolutely love, and I would love to be able to, have enough money that I don't have to worry about our basic expenses and savings and so on, and then we still have money left over to travel. So that's something that we really like. Speaking of travel, we actually did a big trip last year. So my husband and I had leave together, and he had made these amazing travel plans for us as a family for 6 months. But because of COVID, we couldn't do a lot of it.
Right.
But we still said that we're going to go to India to my parents. So we went to India
Amazing.
for 3 months. Yeah, it was really amazing. We went to India for 3 months. We spent 1 month with my parents and 2 months at the seaside. And and my daughter would play in the sand and play in the water.
Oh,
And I mean, she was just a baby. She was just crawling then. But
oh.
yeah, that was a really great thing. So I would love to do more family holidays like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. They're so important.
Mhm.
Oh, that's amazing. So good to hear. Thank you so much for sharing. I think we're gonna conclude this episode on this. Thank you so, so, so much for coming, for sharing all of this. And for all the work that you're putting for mothers. I will put all your links and everything in the show notes so that everyone can go and check out all the great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And there is a tradition on this podcast that the guest always gets the very last word. So the mic is yours.
Yeah, I think that what I want to say is to all the people that are listening to the podcast is that you are important, you are valid, and you should take up the space in your life to make yourself seen and heard. And a motto in my work, I also offer workshops, and in my workshops and in my coaching, my big motto is communicating with courage. So to go out there and take up space, speak up about yourself, for yourself, and ask for what you want, because you are worthy.